Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another one of our Moon Colony live streams. Um, Today, I've got a special guest with us for the first time on our Moon Colony streams. We've got Alex Heath. Hello, Alex.
Hello.
Um, so I just thought we'd get Alex to do a quick introduction about himself and the sort of thing that we're going to be doing today. So take it away.
Yes, thanks, Jaden. So my name's Alex Heath. I'm art director and senior illustrator at a studio called Materia. I freelance for them, and they're based in Berlin. Today I'm going to do kind of a requested stream, a fun stream about how to take an image, a black and white image, into color. And I thought I would show you like a couple of different ways to do this. There's kind of the quick and dirty way, and if you have like a sketch already done, and then there's kind of a way that is a bit more production focused and kind of something that I use more in my like everyday work. So I thought it'd be fun to show you the differences and maybe even how they might differ from each other slightly in the actual outcome as well. It's gonna be pretty chill, pretty fun.
Nice.
And yeah, if like people have got questions as we go through, we can address those.
Yeah,
even if they're a little bit off topic, they don't have to be about.
Yeah. Any questions? Fire away.
For real.
Oh, people are asking what the studio was. Would you mind repeating?
Oh, it's called Materia. Like in Final Fantasy. You can,
oh yeah.
Like Materia. I don't know if that's actually why it's called that. It could be. But that's what it's called.
Awesome.
Yeah. Quite a new studio. It's the sister to Character, which is like a long-standing kind of studio that does more 3D design and stuff for games. Materia is more 2D. Anyway, we're on the Moon Colony stream.
Yeah, we're on the Moon Colony stream. Stop talking about Materia. Oh, come on.
So, I'll show you a little bit about how this file's set up. There's nothing like too special about it. This first process is probably at least something I guess people will be more familiar with, and the second process maybe not so much. But this first one's a bit simpler. So I basically just have, like a background. I have this kind of subsurface scatterings through the hair / backlight, and then particles in the air. And then on top, I just have this black and white sketch. So if I kind of turn the rest of this off, it's just this lady here, and it's just very, flat gray tones. Nothing special about it. This is representing our sketch. So this could be like a full composition, or it could just be one character in a splash, or, it's just a kind of a placeholder for whatever it is. And I also have, which is not necessary, but this is more necessary for the second process, what I call like a clown pass. So this is basically these layers, but they are separated out by massive color contrasts, and in this way, if I need to like select all of the hair and keep that edge crisp, I can just select it on the clown pass, and because it's high contrast, it will give me these very clean selections. So I can like, choose the headpiece or choose the face. It's just a very direct way of doing it, and I keep this locked underneath the sketch here, just so that I can bring back lines like that. But for this first process, I'll try not use it that much, because I'm going to assume that this is a situation where you've done a sketch, you've started painting on it, you've introduced some values, and you like where it's going enough to be like, okay, this is going to be a sketch I'm going to go forward with. But you've got all this information kind of baked in already, because you were messing around and you did the lighting. So I think this is a situation most people find themselves in with a black and white sketch, and why then moving to color seems to be a bit of a kind of a sticking point for people, or like something they find difficult, because yeah, they end up here and they're like, but how? Because I've done it. So right, yeah, the first thing I'll do, I've got this background separated. I'm going to pretend like the background is the only thing that I have as a separate thing, and that the sketch is all baked together as one thing, because I think that probably more accurately represents what people will have. So with the background here, I'm just going to use the hue and saturation sliders. This is on Control U, I believe, on PC. You can actually bring up like a layer from the adjustments, but if you just use the shortcut, it will use the actual layer that you're using, so you don't have to clip something to it.
Oh, nice.
And this one's real, everyone uses this one, but just in case you don't know, you can change the values, you can change the saturation, and you can change the color, the actual hue itself.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do here is,
I just hop in. Sorry, we've just got like a bunch of Twitch Prime subscriptions. So I just want to go through them. Sorry, yeah, literally been going for like 5 minutes. But thank you, Ruddy Clown. Thank you, Marco Frisitano. Thank you, Official Calv. Thank you, Limex as well, for your Twitch Prime subscriptions. Thank you very much. Enjoy your emotes. You've got some there with more stuff coming in the future. So keep your eyes peeled. But thank you. I'll let you get back into it. I just didn't want to.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, sorry. I'll just like chat. So
yeah,
please butt in at any point, because I'll just waffle on. I recognize some names. Hello, Brandon. Hello, Official Calv. What's going on? Cool. Yeah, all the free Twitch money. Right?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, hang on, I just lost everything here. It's going well. Okay. So yeah, this slider, I'm going to click colorize. This does what it says on the tin. It colorizes whatever layer it is. I'm just going to kind of put in a rough idea of what my background color is on here. Just swinging it into the sort of color space that I want.
Sure.
And then there's kind of like 3 layers, I guess, I use to take something from black and white to color very quickly, and then that will be kind of the palette established for me that I will then use to paint with. And you can do this in kind of quite a sort of painterly manner, which I guess makes this process seem a lot more, the finish is a lot more painterly, I guess. It's a bit more loose, and that way you can get a bit of an interesting kind of color play. But for reasons I'll get into, it's maybe not the most like accurate way to do things after a while, and it can cause a lot of cleanup later on. But if it's just the sketch that you've got, then yeah, you have to do it this way. So the first layer that would go above my sketch here is a color layer, and so this is layer set to color. This does pretty much what it says on the tin. It colors, the values underneath it. So if you've got something black and white, it will tint it in that range. And I find that this is a good way to get some initial sort of colors in, but it's almost like watercolor. It's like putting in washes. Everything's not very chromatic. Everything tends to look quite washed out.
Yeah.
And so it just has this kind of look of like glazes going on. But it can be a good way to immediately eliminate the sort of black and white, and start to give you an idea of like where your colors might go. And what's also nice there's you can introduce like a little bit of kind of color movement in here as well. So if you, let's say, like painting the nose, you know, it tends to get a bit more like blood flow, for example, or the cheeks. You can introduce that kind of local coloring a bit in something like this. And you'll see me switch between a few things. People laugh at me for using the swatches, but like I find these really helpful to just, you know, grab something real quick, even if it's like not exactly what I want. You know, I'll grab this and then I'll open this and be like, okay, I'm roughly where I want it to be. It's just a starting point.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone do that actually. It's
yeah, see, learn it here.
Yeah, I mean,
learn it here first. Yeah, it's like I said, people laugh at me because they're like, so why you use the swatches? You can't do anything. But for example, I saved a few that I wanted to use here. So who's laughing now?
Yeah.
Who's ahead of the game?
Yeah. Someone was prepared.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it was last minute. I'm joking. So yeah, you'll see me use a few different things. I'll either open this, and this is, I guess, what everyone's quite used to. Bit later on, I will use these lab sliders, and these are really excellent, and I'll maybe talk about those later, but I'll use these quite a bit. And yeah, I'll also use the swatches because we've just established that they're the way to go.
Yeah, only real professionals use swatches.
Yeah, exactly. Just you know, no. I won't hear a bad word about them. Honestly, they're great. Anyone that doubts, not got time for. So yeah, as you can see, obviously this first kind of layer is kind of establishing what I'd call like the raw palette. Like if these are almost if I had an artist palette and I was just squeezing out tubes of paint to paint with, it's kind of like that for this. It's I'm just putting down like, oh, I'm going to use kind of oranges here and reds here, and you know, try some stuff out using a big brush. Like I'm not really caring too much about the edges of things. I'm just generally saying like, this is going to be warmer, this is going to be cooler, blah blah blah. Making those kind of notes there. And yeah, so like I've picked this blue color, right? If I want to like get some more interesting colors into the hair, but I want to stay within this blue kind of, I want to stay within this value range. Like you can open this up and then start to do this sort of thing and search for something and then see if your values are matching up. But what I like to do is use these lab colors, and essentially if you use the bottom two, you can shift the hue by keep the value, so that you get this nice color play, but you're not accidentally like changing the value that you can do quite easily on this one. And obviously they shift it, like this one's green red, and then this one shifts it, I think, towards more like it's more complementary shifting rather than it's more complementary, and the other one's contrasting.
Yeah.
It can be.
I'm just thinking if I can move your camera somewhere a bit better, because people want to see your layers. There we go. I've got you right in the corner. There we go.
Okay.
Is that better for everyone?
You stick me under the brushes here, maybe. I don't know. Oh, is
yeah, well, that's where I am. It's okay. I've moved you a little bit further to the left.
All right.
We'll see how that goes
over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see what's going.
Can you just can you just repeat what you said earlier about the clown pass? Someone's just seen your clown pass layer, and
sure, yeah. This is secret techers down here. Yeah. So the clown pass is this. It is the same black and white drawing that we have here, but it is in very high contrasting colors, and it's locked. So when I want to say select just the hair, I go to my clown pass, I take my quick selection tool, and I just click on the hair, and it gives me, the cleanest selection of that entire area. So that if I wanted to clean up like this edge here where the red's bleeding over onto the blue, I can just click that and I have the selection. It's just a very quick and simple way to keep everything separated, but at this point where I want to be kind of a bit freer and a bit loose, bit of an artist, then you can just go crazy on this bit and then clean it up later, which is good because you don't want to focus on doing clean strokes and stuff when you're just laying down color. I think it's kind of the point of this sort of stage of proceedings is to go with something a bit more like lively and expressive, and then later on you can clean that stuff up and make a real job of it. So it just enables you to do that. But I understand if you've just been drawing and you've got a sketch you like and then you started painting on it in black and white, that you're not gonna have set it up this way that you can do a clown pass. So
yeah,
for this first process, like I'm not going to use it too much or at all, because I want to kind of emulate that real kind of process. But for the second process, the much cooler process, I might add, the much more grown up process. No,
the process where you have the time to do it.
Yeah, the process where you have the time, or you have a job.
Yeah,
and you don't have the time, so you need to be, more exacting with what you're doing, because you never know what the client's going to say.
Yeah.
And let me tell you,
they'll say what you're least expecting.
Yeah, they're gonna want to make some changes.
Yeah.
And those changes don't really agree with old one layer. Oh, Mr. One Layer. So,
Mr. One Layer, he hates it.
Yeah, it does not favor Mr. One Layer.
Casey Parongan. Oh, Casey says, is there any particular reason why you're using the HSB color slider instead of the cube? Is it just personal preference?
Well, instead of this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. This one I think is easier to get colors of the same value to get sort of nice color interplay. And I find that difficult on this. Like if I want to keep it the same value, you see as I'm sliding down here, these values are changing. So if I want to match this value, I then got to be like, well, where's the point at which those two things are the same value?
Yeah.
And it's a bit annoying. Whereas this, as long as I don't go completely to the ends, like I stay within the middle, the value is pretty much the same. It doesn't change too much. So it's just a bit of a preference there. And it's a fairly sort of new thing in my workflow, I guess, to do that. So yeah, here we go. I think this is probably sort of almost enough to go down here on this color there, because I've kind of been waffling a bit. It's happened, everyone. The waffle.
The waffle has started. It's inevitable. I feel like on our live streams they're inevitable. It just
also, I always have in mind that when like when you're presenting, that I will talk too fast if I don't stop and think about it.
Yeah.
So now I've got into the habit of like really slowing down, and then I'm like, I don't have enough time. So yeah, moving swiftly on. So this is the color layer. It's on its own. It's just the color, but it interacts quite nicely with the black and white. It somewhat preserves the values. Let's see if it completely does. yeah, there's basically no change to the value, almost a tiny bit in there. So you know, it's a good way of preserving your values, which can also be something that people struggle with, you know, is retaining the value as you move into color. So the next layer that I then put on top, though, because this is like my sort of watercolors, my washes,
Yeah.
the main kind of areas. So this next layer is linear dodge add, and linear dodge add kind of works like screen or color dodge, but it reacts with the colors underneath it. So if the color layer is my palette with all the paints on it,
Yeah.
then linear dodge add is like me taking bits of those paints and mixing new colors and painting on top of my picture to enhance anything that I have already set up in here. So it's additive, so you're kind of adding kind of light, adding brightness to it, so it's going to change your values, but it's also taking what's underneath it and kind of punching that up. So the other thing to know with this is if you double click on the layer, normally this checkbox, transparency shapes, will be checked, and you want to uncheck that. Get that bad boy out of there.
Kick him out.
Yeah, transparency shapes there. Get him out. This kind of affects what the kind of layer looks like. If I do it without it, watch it just like not do it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's me like doing a couple of strokes with it turned on rather, and then boom. See that? It actually worked. I'll zoom in for all those at the back.
Yeah. And so you can just about notice it.
Yeah, so this is with it off, which is what we want, and this is with it on.
Okay.
So it basically with it on, we just have basically the color that I painted into the layer. It's not really interacting properly with the layers below it, and it's kind of uniform across. It's just getting more opacity, but here it's interacting with those warmer colors underneath, and therefore we're getting this kind of penumbra where we get a new color introduced, this kind of pinky sort of version of that color, and then the color that I used in the middle. And linear dodge, color dodge, screen, all of those layers interact the same way. So if you are using color dodge and being like, well, why doesn't it look like someone else's? It's because they've turned that off. So transparency shapes. Turn that thing off.
Those hidden settings, man.
Yeah, it's annoying because I was using color dodge like it was going out of fashion when I was learning to use Photoshop, and I was just like, it just doesn't look the same, and people were like, oh yeah, use color dodge to make this thing glow, or like, you know, do magic stuff or whatever, and I was like, this doesn't work. And then I can't remember who showed me or where it happened, but someone showed me this, and I was like, oh my god, it's the magic sauce. And then obviously that didn't curb my color dodge use at all. That ramped it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I, for example, I want to kind of really make this lighting that's hitting a face, you know, super juicy, because obviously I want you to look here. So I can use a hard brush here. I'm using an orange, and I'm kind of brushing that into this area where the lights are, and you know, as you can see, it's taking the colors I already have. It's taking this orange, taking this red, taking this kind of, you know, off-white, and it's bringing the value of the lights up, but it's getting this kind of nice play with the layers underneath, and you know, it gives me a nice kind of penumbra that I can use to enhance stuff. So it's kind of like taking the palette you establish already, and amping it up, you know, giving it much more vibrance, and it starts to take things away from looking like that sort of wash that we have in the beginning, because we don't want that.
No.
No.
We have a question from
Go on.
Ruddy Crown.
All right.
Is there a way to use? I'm assuming you're going to know what this is. Is there a way to use Lab as a layer adjustment? The Control U hotkey if you're on Windows, which is the thing we were, I think, saying at the
Oh
start.
yeah. Do you know what? I actually don't know. Um, I don't think so. I mean, I know a lot of the ones that are on hotkeys are in this adjustments.
Yeah.
You know, if you go Windows adjustments, you can open them here, and I don't see one for that. But that's not to say it isn't a thing. Yeah, those are the. Yeah, I'd have to look that up. I'd be interested to know actually if someone does end up figuring that out. Because that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, guys, you have a new challenge. You have an hour and a half to find the answer to that question and get back to us.
Do it.
But you have to stay watching. You can't leave.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a caveat to this.
Yeah. The caveat is do research, but watch the stream at the same time.
Yeah. You gotta get a few windows open.
Yeah.
Got a multi-box.
Yeah. Pull the third monitor out.
Yeah. It's time. It finally has its use. So yeah, I'm doing a little thing here where it's like the light, this backlight is so bright that it's coming through a hair. It's giving us this subsurface scattering. This is kind of unrealistically doing it, but you know, it's nice and
it looks pretty.
Yeah, it's really all we're worried about.
Yeah.
With this, I wanted to keep this like sketch fairly simple because I did think about using a sketch that had like a lot more going on, but then I wouldn't have been able to get around it enough to really sort of show what I'm doing. So
yeah,
you know, I just got to make all these things juicy instead.
I actually do have another question if you're up for it.
I'm in.
You're in. Nice.
Yeah,
so
I'm locked in.
Lime Live said, what do you do if you don't want to paint dark hair? Since you do a color wash, the colors will always be a little bit darker, no?
If you don't want to, if this lady was blonde.
Blonde, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. The kind of color layer mode doesn't like interact too well with lighter values. It just kind of blows things out to white. Like I would say there that you're almost better off using something like multiply and initially blocking in the color for the hair darker, and then over the top use something like linear dodge or overlay to then bring the value of it back. So you want to kind of do the color keep the value kind of lower initially and then go from there. And if you've got like a sketch already, which is, I'm assuming what you mean is like you've already painted it light, then yeah, darken it first with multiply and then maybe try and go from there with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like that. Something like that.
Let me just see. I was just going to take a look and see if there's any more that I've missed.
Yeah, no worries.
But I think we're good. But keep them coming.
Keep them coming. Yeah, we're up for the questions.
Oh yeah.
I'm relying. Relying on them, otherwise I'll just stop talking at some point. Definitely awkward.
Mela said, wow, look at him. Are you wearing it, Heath? I'm assuming this is somebody you know.
Oh, it's Mel. Is it Mel?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. Mel's my #1 fan.
Oh, nice.
Mel's been watching the stream since the OG days.
Oh, nice. Welcome, Mel. Nice to see you.
So yeah, like if I show, so I'm kind of like amping up the palette a little bit through here, through the use of linear dodge, and we can start to kind of get a little bit of interesting reflections and stuff, and then that kind of will sort of segue us into the next thing in a sec.
Nice. So you use a lot of layer modes in your process then?
Yeah, I like. I would say like I maybe use these 3 pretty often, and then I'll eventually sort of crush all of this down and just paint opaquely on top of it.
Yeah.
So like in the beginning, the setup, if you like, is quite, relies on quite a few sort of layer modes and stuff like that. But then afterwards, it's all gets condensed down quite a bit. And also like I don't know, like I'm sort of over egging the pudding on this one, just because it's easier to sort of show what everything's doing when it's like a little bit amped up and a bit saturated and stuff like that. So it's really just to show the process off to its fullest, but you can be a lot more kind of subtle, and I'll like bring this a bit back into line with the next layers that I'll put on.
Sure.
I find that it's actually harder later to make something like more saturated or more bright overall something, but so in the beginning I tend to like really blast everything, and then I will kind of rein it in later on, and in that way it retains kind of the energy from the beginning as you sort of clean it up and rein it in. Whereas I find sometimes if I get to the painting and it's feeling pretty drab, but I've painted quite a lot on it, I find it quite hard to like shoehorn these kind of more brighter and chromatic things in later. So I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but that's generally how I like to do it. It's kind of like push it too far in the beginning and then rein it back.
Rein it in, yeah. Makes sense. Lime says, this is so simple but so insanely effective. I'm definitely going to watch the VOD later and take notes. Yeah, please do.
I'd be happy to send the PSD over to you, Jaden, if it's something that I wanted to give out. I don't know if that's
we can
something that happens.
That's something that we could do. If you're happy to do it, then I don't see why not.
Yeah, I mean, by all means. Yeah.
Nice.
Happy to do that. It's maybe a bit easier to sort of look through a PSD.
Yeah,
the layers are kind of quite simple.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
And then you can try it out yourself with something that's already there, so you don't have to draw it.
Draw a whole like sketch.
Yeah, unless I see ArtStation get filled up with a front page of different versions of this. Hey, what's going on? I've been had.
You can have it, but you have to keep a watermark across the whole thing.
Yeah, you can gotta write your name on it.
Yeah. Sloper says, I don't remember if you said this earlier, but how do you feel about gradient maps and whatnot? Do you use those at all when coloring your art?
Yeah, so gradient maps is pretty interesting way to color stuff, and like without going too much into it, if people don't know what it is, but
Mhm.
essentially it's like a gradient, and let's say we have it going from this kind of really bright yellow all the way down to like this really dark blue. And you just make that gradient yourself, and then
Yeah.
you basically tell the gradient map like to assign itself to this black and white sketch. And so, you know, any value that's this kind of lighter one will be on one end of it, and any value that's much darker will be on the other end, and it will kind of assign the values as you go
Mhm.
across there. And it's a pretty powerful tool. I find it's like a little bit fiddly is my only thing. And like if I was going to do it to this image, there are parts that are like dark, like here,
Yeah.
that are kind of more red, which is kind of hard to set up on the gradient when you've got also kind of these other areas that are dark and they're blue.
Mhm.
And you need to make a kind of gradient that's quite complicated with this color movement, and make sure that the values that you've set up actually correspond to the things you want them to correspond to. So I think it can be really, really powerful, but it also requires like quite a bit of sort of setup and forethought, which the result of which is a bit harder to predict. And
Yeah.
obviously it still needs quite a bit of post-processing. You still got to paint into it. So I think for something that is actually quite time intensive, really,
Mhm.
I feel like something like this is maybe a bit easier to just jump into. But yeah, I've seen some people use them like really well and really kind of do something amazing with them. I'm not one of those people.
I suppose it's a lot of balancing the time commitment and effort with the output, right?
Yeah,
If you could do something like this that's fairly quick and dirty, then yeah, is it going to turn out better and for the time
yeah,
commitment? Yeah.
exactly. I think it's really good for certain things, like if you have a background, let's say it's a background in an environment, like the very far background. So you've got, kind of everything's clumped together, like
Yeah.
mountains, forest, that kind of thing. And it can be kind of washed out and kind of abstractly colored. Then it's perfect for that, because it does it very quickly. It assigns it where those values are,
Yeah.
and it just looks pretty natural. Whereas if you went in and like tried to airbrush all of that stuff, it looked very soft and kind of rubbish.
Mm.
So it definitely has a place, and like for people that know how to use it properly, I've seen some pretty good tutorials and also outputs from it. It's just not something that I ended up learning early on when I was
Yeah.
learning Photoshop. So then it's just never something that kind of had to use too much. But yeah, they were good. I wouldn't poo-poo them.
Yeah.
Don't use them. um, okay, so I think it could be time to introduce the next layer mode.
Let's go.
Let's go. Get some W's in the chat for layer
Yeah,
mode.
layer modes. Let's go.
Okay, so up until this point, we'll recap. We got
Mhm.
the washes. We got the kind of secondary and kind of mixing of those base colors in here. Got some nice color movement going on. But if I just turn this black and white, we are missing that thing that gives all these paintings like depth and kind of solidity, and that is our kind of darker end of the spectrum, our shadows,
Yeah.
and specifically our kind of ambient occlusion as well, which kind of helps to lift things away from each other. So ambient occlusion, for anyone unfamiliar with the term, if you like put your fingers together like that, and you look at it, and you're like, there's a dark line between my fingers. You know, it's kind of just a very dark
Yeah.
thin line between. Well, this is because, you know, the light can't get into this very small gap, and you get this really intense shadow, and you know that is ambient occlusion. So it's light being occluded from the surface, and you know any sort of creases of your fingers,
Yeah.
that's where you're going to see it. Corners of your mouth, like you'll see it everywhere. And if you've ever like messed around with a game engine, and you've turned off ambient occlusion, and then suddenly everything just feels a little bit more kind of fake and like computery.
Yeah.
It's that, and it can be, you know, this doesn't necessarily look terrible for not having ambient occlusion, but when you start to introduce that stuff along with kind of shadows and start to round things out a bit more, you then really see the difference. So the next layer that I would go on with here is multiply, and I'll just label this one multiply as well. Multiply. And yeah, this is where I'd sort of start to introduce my kind of ambient occlusion and my larger kind of shadows, and sort of start to separate out certain things. And multiply darkens stuff underneath it. So look, this is very close to black. So
Yeah.
pardon me, it becomes black. But if I use like this red, you know, I get this kind of darker red. And so, yeah, when I'm doing the ambient occlusion, I will try and find something that doesn't register as black and actually has some color to it. So in that case, it would still be quite light
Okay.
as a color. So if it was on a normal layer, like it looks like this, but on a multiply layer, it looks like this, and therefore it retains some of the local coloring around it, and you can still see kind of the modeling underneath. So it just gives a bit more again, like color movement, stops things looking flat, and also because it's not black, it is not going to turn your colors muddy.
Yeah.
Which I saw someone was asking about.
Yeah.
Muddy colors.
Yeah, I was waiting to ask about that. So.
Yeah, so muddy colors. There's a few reasons that your colors will be muddy. One is that it's the wrong value for the point on the form, or it's the wrong temperature. So it's too warm or it's too cool. And obviously both of those things together also make things muddy, but usually the problem is with one of them. So what I mean with the first one is, if you're expecting this nose to have values going from where the light hits it all the way to the shadow's edge and then into the shadow, if you put the wrong value on here, like something that is like much darker like this, what you're doing is you're telling the eye now that this form changes direction really suddenly. Like it's no longer a slightly sort of rounded thing like this, and now it's like a box edge. You know.
Yeah.
And also, if you do this with a value, a color that you're not expecting to see there, so something like that's really the wrong temperature, like this blue, even if it's more subtle than this, you get what we call muddy colors. Essentially, you're like muddying the palette, because we're transitioning from something that, you know, is very kind of bright, not too chromatic, into like this warm transition, and then it's going to cool off as it gets darker. But we're just sticking something that's way cooler than all of that, this blue in here, and suddenly if I start color picking and like using this color, it's going to get muddy. It's kind of dirtied the palette, and that's why we get muddy colors. So yeah, if you're looking at it and you're like, oh, why are my colors muddy? It's one of those two things. Quite often it's both, but sometimes it's more isolated and it's just one of them. And it can be a tough one in the beginning to sort out. And this is why I find that this particular process of taking things from black and white to color is not the best when it comes to retaining a clean palette, because what we're doing, and this is kind of what you're doing in general when you're separating the process out to be, we do the values first and then we do the color, is you're actually not like linking the two things together. Because we look at someone's face, it's not very often that the value changes and also the color doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
Like whenever there is a value change, there is generally a color shift too. So if we just do the values independently of the colors, what we're kind of missing is the decision to make another color as the value's changing. And when we do this on top, what we can actually do is like here's a good example of it. This kind of bounce light makes this red, red orange under here, and this bounce light is only going to hit the underside of the chin.
Mm-hmm.
But we have it coming past the point at which the light edge hits. So this maybe starts to look like it could be slightly bruised and not that it's lighting. And this is because we're seeing a temperature here that is telling us something different about what's happening with the light, when it should be describing what's happening with the form. So here should actually be a much cooler or like desaturated version of this, like something like this.
Yeah, such a slight difference.
Yeah, and that's how that should properly turn. Now, if you were just doing this straight in color, you would just do this as you were painting, because the value and the color are like intrinsically linked. So you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna desaturate this, blah blah blah, and change it. But when you're working over black and white, all these strokes are already made, and so it's quite often that you'll go over the piece in a way that kind of brute, like I've done here, just like big washes everywhere, and it's just like wrecking everything. So this can be good to sort of colorize sketches to a degree, but this needs a lot of cleanup to be finished. If I was to say take this to the fully rendered level that I guess client work would be accepted as, like I could show this as here's my intentions with the color, this is my color rough, but as soon as I start cleaning this up, I'll be like, damn, everything's out. And be quite muddy in that way. So the other process I'm going to show you kind of mitigates that a bit more, I think. Still needs cleanup, but it's a bit more kind of mathematical in its approach, and a bit more, if you'd say done clean line work or an illustration, and therefore you had the luxury of being able to work just from line work only and not having to work from a black and white sketch so much, you could set it up the way that I'm going to show you. So I'll add a bit more in this, and then we'll move on to the second line.
Nice. I was going to say we're coming up to an hour. Time flies.
It does. Time flies.
I think we have an answer to our assignment that we set earlier about the lab adjustments. So Roddy Crown says it looks like if you want to use lab adjustment layers or lab in curves, you have to convert the file from RGB to lab. That's unfortunate.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's out.
Yeah.
Um,
Sucks to be
yes,
us.
it does. It does. Although, you know, I only maybe thought that might exist a few minutes ago. So
Yeah.
I can't be too upset about it.
Yeah.
It
You're not gonna
the
lose any sleep
possibility
over
only existed
it.
for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I'd actually already maybe forgotten a little bit as well.
um, uh, what else have we got? It's a Narf says, "Hey there, Alex. It's nice to see you streaming again. It's lovely to see Alex streaming again.
Oh, beautiful.
We dragged him out of retirement.
Yeah. Retired.
Yeah.
Reformed.
Reformed streamer. Nico said, "Hello, guys. It's the first time here. Hi, Nico. Welcome.
What's up, Nico?
I hope you enjoy. Just to say what we're doing, we're taking a black and white image and colorizing it. We're coming up to the end of our what you call it, like a rough and ready version, going into the more well-baked one.
Yeah, I guess the more client-friendly version is the next one.
Yes, yeah.
And like it is cool. I guess is the next process as well is one of those that if you're doing a piece like for your portfolio,
yeah,
if I was going to finish this up for my portfolio, the other process enables you to do so many different things with the one sketch that you could actually have a whole kind of ArtStation page of like, this is different lightings and this is different
that's cool
colors. Like it gives you a lot more mileage out of one sketch, which I think is pretty cool. And something that I don't see too much of, but it would actually be pretty cool to see in a portfolio, because a lot of production is kind of being sort of flexible to a certain extent, and if you set up your files in such a way that it's like, oh, we can see this person has the forethought to know that all of this stuff could change, then I think it just speaks to kind of organization a little bit, I guess.
Christina actually said, I may have missed this, but I'd love to hear how Alex got into the industry. Yeah, how did you
okay, yeah, I can talk about that. How did I get into the industry? I'll keep it fairly brief. But basically, I was studying at a place called the London Atelier of Representational Art, which is was closed down now, RIP. Yeah, it's so if you've ever heard of like the Florence Academy or any sort of traditional atelier that teaches drawing and painting, but like classical drawing and painting. I was studying at that one in London, and with the aim of improving my like drawing and stuff to eventually go into concept art, which someone had clued me onto and a few years ago when I was at university, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And when I looked into what concept art was and how to do it, was when conceptart.org was around.
Oh yeah, I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah, and basically I was looking at the work of people there that were already kind of hired at places.
Yeah.
And I was looking at my work and I was like, I can't draw. I was like, their stuff's great, and like I can't do that. So that's why I joined the London Atelier, because that was like purely just learn to draw, learn to paint.
Yeah.
No other strings attached. Like you don't learn how to be an artist. Like you just learn how to be a draftsman, I guess. Like so anyway, I was there. I was doing that, and then an event popped up in London called Industry Workshops, and I got to know the organizers of industry workshops, and one of the guys, Dan, invited me down, and they had their first event in London, in Hoxton Square, and that's where I'd actually met Emral for the first time.
Oh, cool.
Was there. That's how we know each other. And so yeah, I was there, and I took my sketchbook along, which was just the sketchbook that I used at the atelier for life drawing. And yeah, I was there. I was showing my sketchbook basically to anyone that would look at it, just being a proper freak about it. Look at my sketchbook. And then I showed it to Bjorn Hurry, which I'm sure people know who that is. I showed it to Bjorn, and he was like, "This is cool. There's someone you need to talk to." And he introduced me to a guy called Chi, who owns Opus Arts, which is a little outsourcing studio in London. And so I showed him my sketchbook, and he was like, "Wow, this is cool. Do you want to come down to the studio on Monday and you know, like have a talk further?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome." So I went on Monday, went and met everyone at the studio, and then he was like, "Okay, yeah, if you could like go and sit with everyone for like 20 minutes and just give them a critique on like, you know, the work that they're currently doing." And and you know, just like have a chat with people and see how you get on. And I was like, fuck. So then I was talking to people that really, they know what they're doing. They don't need critique from me, and it was a bit awkward, but it was kind of fine. And everyone was really nice and chill. But yeah, it's just sort of going around and, I don't know, like critiquing someone who knows what they're doing's anatomy, just being like, "Wow, maybe the arm could be a bit longer." real bozo stuff. Anyway, we did that, and then we had lunch, and yeah, the Chi was like, "Well, you know, we've got a junior position open. Like, it would be kind of learning on the job. You'd kind of be thrown in at the deep end a little bit, but you know, like we think you can you know, learn on the job. Like, you seem like someone who's going to be able to do that." So yeah, then I started there as a junior, and that was like almost 10 years ago.
Wow.
So yeah, I started there when I was more like 26. That was my first junior job in the bizzo. And I worked there for 3 years or so. And then because that job was like really varied, in as much as like I was kind of a generalist. You know, I was doing a bit of like 3D, and some of that stuff's still on my ArtStation. But I was doing a bit of like 3D, a bit of like environments, some illustrations. Like, it was basically anything and everything. So during the course of doing all of that, I was like, I actually don't want to be a concept artist. I want to be an illustrator. Like, I sort of thought that concept art was illustration to a degree. You know, and it was only by doing the job I was like, oh, I actually kind of got this a bit wrong. I just like illustration. So after that, sort of figuring this out and being there a while, I was like, you know, I really want to like go freelance and just do splash illustrations, you know, for like League of Legends and all that. Everyone's goal.
Everyone loves League of Legends. Everyone has the dream.
Everyone does. Yeah, so sort of everyone's got that kind of little riot twinkle in their eye. And so what was I going to say? Yeah, so I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go freelance. So I started streaming because I had all this free time, and I was like, I need to build an illustration portfolio. May as well stream and do this at the same time and try and get some interest in it. And then that coincided with Riot having a Riot Games splash art contest on a forum called Poly Count or something.
Yeah. Not sure.
So then I was streaming, every day my kind of entry for that, and the stream got pretty popular. I don't know what happened, but someone must have shared the link somewhere,
Yeah.
or like it got pushed on an algorithm for some reason, because whatever, however that works. We got like tons of people coming to the stream one day, like over a few hundred, and then the next day it was the same, and it was like, whoa, what the fuck's going on? Sorry, what the cheese is going on? And yeah, off the back of that, before we'd finished the contest, I got an email from someone at Riot asking if I wanted to work on Legends of Runeterra, and I was like, I have no idea what that is, because it was still very much in production at the time. And so I started actually working on that while the competition was still on, but then I had to like pull out of the competition, because I was like, I don't want to, like, the whole point of doing the competition was to potentially get a job at Riot, and then I ended up getting that before the competition had finished, and I was like, I don't want to, if I like come in the top 3 or whatever, I don't want to take away the fact that someone else could have done that. So I like just kind of pulled out of the competition, but also couldn't say what I was up to. So I was just like, oh yeah, I just won't be able to finish it, even though
you
like
were streaming the whole
I
thing.
talked about. It's like all I've been talking about for like 2 months every day. It was just like, oh man, there's competition, and I was like, oh yeah, sorry, I just can't do it. So yeah, that was that.
That's so good.
Yeah, I was way out of my depth though with that work. It was like, yeah, I struggled really hard to meet the quality kind of requirement, and yeah, I was just a bit out of my depth. I was like still pretty new to doing illustration solely, and so I could like render things passably enough, but yeah, the kind of more nuanced aspects of all of that stuff was a bit beyond me. So quite a few of I think I painted maybe 10 or 15 cards, but I think only maybe 5 or 6 are actually out there, and the rest of them have been like redone by a much better artist. Which I was gutted about at the time, but now in retrospect I'm like, I actually don't want my ones out there.
I can just imagine, like, you're like, oh, I remember I did some cards for this set, and then you're looking through like, hold on, that doesn't look right.
Yeah, I was like, this looks way better than mine. Yeah, because I had done like the character Gangplank. I'd done like the level 1 or 2 or whatever for him, as one of them, which actually wasn't like one of the worst ones that I did, but yeah, they I think they ended up getting like Jihan Lee to redo it. So I was like, well, I'll take that. That's not so much of an L. I think he does a better job. But yeah, the ones they did let out are like by far the better ones that I did, and the ones that have been redone, like every single one that I've seen, I'm like, yeah, they made the right choice. That was good. It was a good learning curve. Like, it helped me figure out what I was not doing correctly.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably a good learning experience, and
yeah. That's and also just like, Karen.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like, there's someone in chat walk was saying that it's just such a cool, it's a cool origin story,
Origin story. Yeah. I mean, it's I know some people wouldn't have known it, but some people have heard that story a million times before, and it's just lost its interest. But Yeah, it was cool. It was a good learning curve.
Mm.
And it's sort of the power of like internet hype, because if that stream hadn't have got shared, I don't even know where it was shared. I don't know
Yeah.
why it happened, but over the course of like a week, the stream went from having like 10 viewers
Hmm.
to like, I think the peak at one point was like almost 900 for a particular stream. And
Wow.
it was like, where are all these people coming from? Like, I don't get it. And then that same week was when I got the email
Hmm.
about Runeterra. So it was just like, I guess they thought I was better than I was, which was true. I was I was like putting my heart and soul into the picture that I was doing on stream, and
Yeah.
it was by far the better than anything I'd done up until that point.
Hmm.
But it was like I couldn't reproduce it, you
Yeah.
know. It took
Yeah.
so much out of me that when I had to do something kind of on a deadline and to the same standard and something that I hadn't chosen to draw myself, it was yeah, big learning
Yeah.
curves for the boy. But yeah, there we go. Okay, so derailed myself somewhat. Um,
I'll take blame for that. I'll take some blame for that.
cool. I need to make that story shorter. I'll just cut a load of it out. I just got kidnapped, and then
I just got shoved in an art studio, and then here
yeah,
I am.
someone was like, League of Legends. I was like, yeah, all right. So yeah, let's call this process one. You know, the quick and dirty.
Yep.
I was at the end here. Was just putting on like a normal layer and started to paint into it. This is kind of how I would finish this up now. Would be
Hmm.
to just make normal layers and start tightening all of this stuff up. And this is where the clown pass would come in really handy. Like, you know, this kind of area where this is overflowed, you could use the clown pass to
Oh,
select that, and then
oh, hold on,
oh,
your camera's disappeared for a second. You're back. You're fine.
sweet. Okay. The goblins
Yeah,
got us.
it's the internet goblins
Yeah.
constantly doing that.
So yeah, then you can use the clown pass here to like clean that edge back.
Hmm.
Beautiful, nice clean, crisp edge. Cream.
Green.
Uh,
It's been a long week. It's fine.
it has
It's been
been
a
a really
long
long
week.
week. So yeah, process 2. You ready? I've hyped it up. It's nowhere
Yeah,
near as good
yeah.
as you think.
Yeah.
It's actually just really rubbish. Yeah, here we go. We'll turn all of this off. Get out of here. We'll use the same background and embers because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
We get to turn on process 2 folder.
Oh,
Here we are.
oh my God.
Okay. So process 2 is, let's say we had a drawing
Mhm.
like this one. We had this drawing and we started from here, and then we were like, okay, this drawing is perfect. This is the final line work. We're gonna do some black and whites to figure out our lighting, and then we're gonna turn it into color. But we're gonna make our black and white version broken out into its separate layers. So we have the values, and then we have our separate light sources on different layers. Much more like how something would go in production. So let's say that you did a color rough and it looked like this, and you're like, right, this is our color rough for the image. Now
Yeah.
we're going to do like a clean line work for it, and we're going to do the values, and then we're going to go into color from there.
Mhm.
So that if the client has any sort of wishes to change certain things about this, be it the actual drawing itself or how the lights are hitting our character, etc., we can sort of mitigate any upset, because if we have to change that stuff here, we're kind of screwed. Like we can't
Yeah.
make any major changes
Yeah.
without repainting things. If I want to change the color of this light source, big problem.
Mhm.
If I want to change how the light hits the face, big problem, because it's already baked in. Whereas this, we're going to sort of assume that we're working with this stuff in mind. So I have lots of things broken out onto separate layers. Let me just check that's all correct. Yeah. Okay. So we've got like the head underneath here. We've got like the internal parts of the ear. We've got the sort of shoulder covering dress, polar neck.
Yeah, turtleneck, whatever it is.
Turtleneck that this elf's wearing because it's kind of cold.
It's kind of cold next to that fiery like volcano that she's looking into.
Yeah. She's actually just next to a green screen in like a garage.
Yeah.
It's got the embers going past.
Yeah. Someone's just throwing tissue paper over a fan or something.
Yeah, exactly. She's actually freezing cold. Just making pictures for Instagram. Yeah, we've got the crown, you know what I'm saying. And then also here I have a multiply layer, which is my shadows. So it's kind of crushing the values of all of this together. So if these are my sort of flat gray values, they're quite varied in their value range, you know, they're quite far apart. And I'm unifying them with a multiply layer to be closer together, which gives us kind of essentially our ambient shadow value, like what the shadows look like without any of the lighting. So that's this multiply layer, and this has the shape of everything underneath it. Then on top of this we have a linear dodge layer with white painted into it, and that's our lights. Pardon me. And this is masked out, so if I turn this mask off, this whole layer is white. And I'm using this mask to make the shape of the light here. And then the same for this bounce light, so the subsurface light coming through the hair and this bounce light that's hitting the underside of the face, that's a separate thing. And then finally this one, which is kind of the very soft ambient, you can barely see this on the screen share probably, ambient sort of top down light. So it's set up in a way that we can now start to colorize this from the ground up, and we have ultimate control over everything.
Unlimited power.
Unlimited power. And I'll show you how much power we have. See, it's going to be a ride, so hold your horses. So I can start using these actual flats that I have. So for the skin under here, you know, I've locked it. Boom, there's a color. Look at that. And I'm just going to go up this kind of stack and fill these in. It doesn't necessarily matter what these colors are at this particular point in time. Yeah, you will see why in a second, because you know they are completely editable. So I can put something in that, you know, currently doesn't look great, doesn't really work, but it don't matter. So
just change it.
Yeah, just change it later. Which is what I'm going to do.
Naf has said that, well, one, they love how clown pass has just become a legitimate term that you use.
Yeah.
And two, imagine how much control you'd have if you actually named your layers.
I know. Yeah, I did. Look, listen.
You did really well in the first slot.
Yeah, and these ones, I'll name them for you. Hey, just for you. Skin. What one's this? Oh. Inside ear. There you go. You asked for this.
Yeah. Now the power is getting too much. It's too much power now.
Turtleneck. Makeup.
Turtleneck.
Yeah. More makeup. We'll call this one makeup 2 so you don't get confused. What's this? Oh, makeup 3. There you go. The
So
power.
much.
Feel the power. Hair. What's this? What do we
Hair
just call
too.
this? Yeah, hair too. See how this works out. Is this one? Crown. There you go. Crown. There you go. I'm not naming the lights. That's enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good enough.
You've had too much fun. Okay, yeah, hair. I'm just locking these transparency so that I can just fill them with stuff pretty easily.
Yeah.
Something like this. Yeah, see? Well, this is where the swatches come in handy. Try to do this in 10 seconds on your own. Not happening.
Yeah.
Unaided.
You gotta fight. You gotta fight for the supremacy of swatches.
Yeah,
Someone's got to
you
do
do.
it.
Yeah, well, and I'm the guy. I'm
Yeah.
the guy for it.
Yeah.
I will die on this hill.
Die on this hill. Yeah, I was gonna say that too.
Yeah, and like as you can see here, she's looking pretty grayed out still, but it's because we haven't messed with the light layers yet. And then we can start tweaking all of this, and this is where it becomes like kind of infinitely more cooler. So let's see, what do I want the shadow value to be? Probably a little bit cooler, but still red, saturated. It's killing the blues a bit too much.
It's nice how easy you can just like play around with them though and just get them.
Yeah, for real. Especially with the lights, this is where it gets quite exciting, right? Because I can like do anything I want.
Yeah.
And this is really good if you're like not really decided. You know, you've done this in black and white, so essentially it can be anything. Like,
yeah.
You don't have to stick to anything. And sometimes you do this and you're like, oh wow, actually there's a second option for the client. Like this one looks really cool for a different reason.
Yeah.
You know, but I'll stick to the plan for now. But yeah, so we'll go.
Oh, thank you, Slowpo, for the hydrate redemption. Much appreciated. Oh, thank you very much. I'll have a drink.
I'll do the same.
Good call. Good call. What does swatches mean? Are those pre-made colors from the program? I think you can make your own as well, right?
Yeah, you can make your own. Yeah. You can just say, for example, open this up, go there, add to swatches.
Yeah.
Click OK. Boom.
Boom.
New swatch. Unlocked.
As a follow-up, someone said, if you're working on a series of illustrations, are you going to prepare? Do you prepare a set of swatches beforehand?
Yeah. I'm just going to say yeah. You know, got to go to bat for the swatches.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just figuring out slightly here, like how I want things to look. But yeah, as you can see, you get kind of quite a lot of choice now to do things. Like I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, oh, maybe like this multiply layer is influencing the colors a bit too much in a certain direction that I don't like. So I can now tweak the multiply layer and tweak the saturation of it, the lightness of it, the darkness of it, and it's just really kind of great way to try loads of stuff out, but also get very specific about what you want. I can even go down into the flats here and say the crown, for example. Say I like everything else, and like the crown is just way too close to the color of the skin. Like I can I can shift this around. I can play with the value, give myself a much, better, say, starting value and saturation for that. And then I can select the jewel at the front and say like, yeah, it's gonna be like our statement bit, so we're gonna really amp the saturation here. And let's say this like ambient light that's on the face. Colorize this. I'll turn it up so you can see what I'm doing here, but essentially I want to find like a nice kind of maybe bluey purple, and turn the lightness down. But this is very subtle. I don't know how much that's going to show on the stream, but I'll zoom in a bit. You can see.
I can see it on mine, but I don't know.
Dark colors.
So many colors.
Yeah. And so yeah, this becomes like a really great way to sort of set up where we then can go with essentially the back end. We can set up our illustration this way, and then on top of this we can start to use some of the things that we'd already done in this version of the illustration. Like I could say take some of the linear dodge stuff from this and start to work this in, but I have a bit more control over what's happening underneath. And what's really cool about this is that, let's say I use this and I send it to my client, the drawing's locked, and they're like, okay, yeah, actually we're thinking of maybe changing the lighting. We just want to try something, this character has a bit more of a shady past, or like some kind of hidden motive. So we feel like this lighting maybe feels a bit kind of holy, a bit kind of glorious for this character. So we maybe want to try something else. If you've done the other process, you're going back to the drawing board. With this one though, I'm just going to duplicate the layer, press OK, and turn off the other one. And then I'm going to I'm just going to leave the layer mask as it is, but I'm going to paint now into the layer mask a brand new light source.
Nice.
And I can
that was a lot.
That was too much, everyone. Avert your eyes. I could say, let's do this kind of classic, this person has something on their mind they don't want you to know, so I'm not going to light their eyes lighting. Everyone knows it's the universal sign for that's going to be a bad guy in the third act.
This person is sus.
Sus lighting 101. But yeah, I can do this. I can work into that layer mask so that this is very kind of quick to edit with my brushes. It's not something too crazy here. Pen tool, by the way, if you're not using this and swatches, then
I was you know what, I was sat there thinking, man, it's not very often you see the pen tool come out.
Yeah, honestly, if you don't use the pen tool, losers. That's all I'll say.
You just go out of your way to use tools no one else uses.
Like that sort of horrible hipster of Photoshop.
Yeah. I used pen tool, before everyone else started using it, but it's changed, man. It's changed.
Yeah, it's changed. Don't judge a tool by its very limited and often annoying uses. It's great. I use it all the time. I actually use it more than the lasso because the lasso tool is kind of bugged on my Photoshop and does like really weird stuff for some reason. So
Nice.
I use the pen tool like all the time, and even when I just need to do something real simple, like
Oh no, that's awful. That's so nasty.
yeah, like my lasso tools doesn't always misbehave, but it does really weird stuff sometimes. It's like it's a bit like if you drop your Wacom pen onto your if you're using the mouse and you drop your Wacom pen onto your tablet, and
Oh yeah.
the computer doesn't know which input it's using, so it's like it's like that.
So everyone in chat is just like,
Why
no.
would you ever do that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember now. Melissa said that she used to use the pen tool to do her line art, like a long time ago. When
okay,
they
that's
before they had a pen tablet and they were using their like mouse.
I see. Yeah, I understand. It's not actually like that's not actually the worst thing in the world.
It's up there though.
It's pretty good. Not as bad as using it to just
To lasso a square or something.
yeah. I kind of didn't know it would cause such outrage. I was wondering, why would you ever do that?
Yeah, it's so good.
It's really upset that person's sensibilities there.
Yeah.
It's just like that's just stupid.
It's immature and stupid. Why would you do that?
Stupid, wrong, and boring.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. It's sussy lighting.
Wow.
Achieved.
It said those Brits.
Yeah, those sussy lighting achieved. You know.
Yeah.
And then you send this to them, and they're like, right, you're correct. That is sussy lighting, but the color's not very sussy. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Right, give me 10 seconds.
Yeah, okay. So I've been left alone.
First it's tea, then it's the pen tool. Yeah, you're just never gonna end.
Yeah. Wait until I get the biscuits. The biscuits.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Can't wait for the Moon Colony biscuit stream.
Is that thing?
It's not, but I'm gonna.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna
put
it forward.
If it's not a thing, you need to get on that.
Moon Colony tea and biscuit reviews.
Yeah, get that sorted.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can do this, change the color, change the mood. Try to do that with the other method.
Yeah, can't do it.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Can't do it.
Pen tool makes this possible.
This stream sponsored by the pen tool.
The pen tool. Yeah. Yeah, I've never had such a strong reaction to it, but I've never actually also had a good reaction to it. So
It's
normally it provokes someone to say, "Oh, do you know the lasso tool?" like they think I don't know what it is.
That's when you just got to look them dead in the eye, straight face, and just be like, "The what?
What? The what tool?
The what?
Lassie?
Lasso? No.
No. I use Photoshop.
Yeah.
What? No. I use Photoshop. Sorry. I don't know.
Yeah, I use Photoshop. I don't use Illustrator. Like, what?
Yeah. Sorry. I don't use Clip Studio. I'm sorry. I don't really know what that is.
Now I've said my German sensibility for imagined efficiency is offended by your use of lasso tool.
Oh, good. I'm glad it's such a problem for everyone.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you know what it's done. It's only strengthened my resolve
Exactly.
to use it unnecessarily when
Yeah.
it's not warranted.
Next time, all illustration using only pen tool.
Yes, pen tool illustration.
Yeah.
Pen tool bubble writing tutorial.
Yeah.
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 Do you know what? Do you know this is probably also gonna really tip it over the edge for people? Is that like I use this macro keypad so that I don't have to keep going up to my keypad here.
Yeah.
Of which the lasso tool is on here, but because I'm too lazy and I've never changed that key, I still go up here
Go
to
up
use
to your keyboard.
pen tool, and then to select the pen tool, I have to press Control Enter to get the thing, completely negating this whole thing that I've had set up for years, just because I can't be bothered to change 2 buttons on it. If it wasn't bad before.
I was gonna say the German efficiency that is being spoken about in chat is they're gonna cry.
Riots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't really realize what you're doing is not fine.
Yes, not until you get in front of like 100 people and they'll just go, what the hell?
They're like, what is actually happening?
It's like taking 1 step forward and 2 steps backwards.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, he's got a job. He's doing this.
This man is a professional, everybody. Just to remind you.
This is it's not what you thought.
I'm gonna have to ask your mentees about whether you tell them to use the pen tool and stuff. I'm gonna have to work with Laura, see what she says.
Yeah, I don't know. I've probably tried to push the pen tool on people.
Yeah.
And that, I'll be like, hey, so if you want to make a clean selection,
yeah,
this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
But honestly, if you can make a cleaner selection with the lasso tool, I want to see it, because my selections are
crisp,
pixel perfect.
I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of the Moon Colony artists we get on here use the lasso tool, and they're clean. I think they're just so used to it. It's a clean.
Yeah, I've kind of made it that I'm only ever going to get worse with the lasso tool because of how much I use the pen tool. Like, I don't think I could trace around this ear in any. Look at this.
Yeah.
And I'm trying. Look at that. Pen tool though, no problem.
Yeah. I bet Alex is being paid by Big Pen Tool for this ridiculousness.
Big Pen Tool. I like that.
Yeah.
I do. I can't remember where I heard it. I think it was a friend of mine the other day. Or it might have been my brother. We were talking about, like Big Pharma and all that kind of stuff. His girlfriend's vegetarian, so she started talking about big veg.
Big veg.
Yeah, big veg having its own agenda.
I love stuff like that. I do that a lot. I'll refer to, like, I don't know. I'll just refer to a whole industry just as Big X. It would just be like, big video game.
Yeah. Big games.
Yeah.
Big veg really got me. I was tickled for some time.
Yeah, it's funny. Hi Gulshan, thanks for highlighting your message. Hello, welcome.
What up?
What up?
What up? Actually, now that I think about it, I maybe want that gem to be blue.
Yeah,
The sus gem has
the
been
sus gem.
the sussy gem has been illuminated, and we can just do that with this process. Brought to you by Pentel.
By Big Pendle.
A big pen. Big pen. And what's something else that would not be the wave? Like
big swatch.
yeah, some kind of like really rubbish pen tablet thing as
Oh
well.
yeah,
Like some kind of like my first pen tablet.
the leap pad, or something when you're like a toddler.
Yeah, yeah. Brought to you by Wacom Bamboo.
Hey, Wacom Bamboo is pretty good.
Yeah, it's not quite the impact that I wanted, but yeah, essentially. That's too blue, actually.
I did see we actually had a question earlier that I haven't had a chance to get to. So I will swiftly swap topics. So Nico Artie said, "Do you think working from grayscale to color is like the way to go, or is it just a preference?"
Let's see. I think it is. I think yeah, it is tough because I was trying to think like because I don't necessarily go from grayscale to color all the time. Either I will kind of just skip the first step and have everything in color straight away because I would have done a color rough, something like this.
Yeah.
So then I'll be starting this process from the bottom, but I won't even start in black and white. I'll just start it in color. But yeah, what's better? I mean, it's a tough one. I think in the beginning, like I think it's a lot easier to grasp values, and so I think a lot of people's like work in the beginning is in black and white, and therefore having a process to kind of transfer that into color so that you can sort of stay in a more, I guess, like safer space that you understand. It's probably good to have a kind of a process for that and an understanding of how to do it. I think also other people get sort of attuned to like different things. Like so for some people, like working, like when they start learning color, it becomes like really quite natural for them straight away, and then they don't feel the need to do things in black and white because they kind of understand enough about color that they could actually do it that way. But for other people, it's like their natural thing is the values, and so they gravitate towards that, and then color is like something that they're less confident with, and so they need kind of a process that enables them to kind of figure one thing out before the other. I know I was very much like a couldn't deal with taking things into color from black and white for ages, and I did everything in black and white, and I was like, I don't know what to do, but I found that actually mixing paints is really what made me learn color and get really comfortable with it. Was like getting some real paint and then just mixing colors, like looking out of the window and try and say like mix the color of the green on a tree with the colors you have, because you start to figure out that you're kind of moving through a space. It's a bit like this. You've got the values and you've got the saturation, but color, and it doesn't really show this on here, is like a three-dimensional space, right? You can move up and down is your value, and you can move in and out is your saturation. But then also you have this other space that goes around it, which is like the hue. And certain colors, and it doesn't show this very well in Photoshop because we're painting with light here, right? It's
Yeah.
backlit pixels. But in real media, like, you can't get a really chromatic blue, like super saturated like this, at any higher value than this.
Mm-hmm.
Once we start making this blue higher in value, so like brighter, it loses all of its chromatic intensity. So for blue, for example, its most chromatic area is like in the lower half of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Whereas yellow, for example, its more chromatic place is much higher in that spectrum, which means you can get a much lighter and more chromatic yellow at higher values.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the bottom of the end of the scale, it loses its color very quickly. So like we're like here, and it's like really dirty yellow. You know, to have something that we intrinsically would say like that's yellow, it's way up here.
Way up there. Yeah.
So if you imagine this space is kind of 3D, and you've got kind of more clusters of, you know, variation in colors at different points of this scale. Once you sort of understand that through mixing paint, you then realize that what you're doing in Photoshop is like you're making things that can't happen in real life, and that causes things to look kind of either blown out or muddy or, you know, in some way strange, because you're like, why does that look odd? Well, it's because you've got this like super saturated blue really high value, and it's not something we ever see. And if you don't understand color too well, you'll do this all over the place.
Yeah.
And it will look like if I did this on top of everything, you know.
Oh.
you start to do this, and you're like, but I've gone cool in the shadows and warm in the light. You know, why does it not work? It's like, because this is crazy. This doesn't exist
Yeah.
in real life.
Deep fried everything.
Yeah, and so if you're only using Photoshop, you know, you'll see a lot of you know, newcomers to digital painting. Their stuff will end up on that end of the spectrum because they're using a kind of a tool that is very kind of artificial in that sense.
Yeah.
Whereas if you learn to do it from real media, you won't end up in those places, and you won't even see those colors in real life. You know, you'd just be like, well, yeah, of course it doesn't exist, it doesn't work. And like obviously you can push that in like fantasy art and stuff like that to get magic. You know, everyone loves magic and that, so you can push it there. But if you do it everywhere, it kind of gets weird. So yeah, there we go. That was the longest answer to that question. Took quite far from the tree there, but whatever. That's what you hit.
Yeah, it's an answer.
It's an answer.
Well, we have another question. It's quite a big one, but so when you're able to influence the workflow, do you present multiple grayscales for one scene and only then move on to multiple color versions of one selected grayscale? I'm assuming this is to a client. Or do you just send one gray, one color version? Like, what's your preferred workflow? Taking line art to fully rendered. Well, I think you mentioned earlier you wouldn't always use the sort of black and white to the color pipeline anyway. But
yeah, not so much. But I guess those things are kind of, they're like two sort of updates, if you like. As in, like, I wouldn't necessarily be sending them you know, these are 3 different black and white thumbnails, and then these are the colors that they could be in. Those 2 things would be like 2 separate updates separated by some amount of time and several meetings, you know. That would try sort of like isolate the things down first. I wouldn't, unless it was specifically asked for it, you know, I wouldn't do colors without first having locked down what the composition was
Yeah.
already. So the first stage, if you like, would always still be black and white thumbnails. But then if one of those thumbnails gets chosen, then that's where we'd sort of like clean stuff up to a degree and maybe do this sort of process to produce our color versions, because we can give them something quite varied and almost quite finished looking, not finished, but something quite sort of sophisticated in its finish for being an early sketch, quite quickly. So then we kind of spend the time to do that. So yeah, it's a bit more split up, like that. Sense.
They said so if you could, you'd just send the final and not get feedback. No.
Yeah, you just you accept the job and you're like, cool, all right, and they're like, sweet.
Disappear for 6 weeks.
Yeah, and then 6 weeks later, just drop them an email and an invoice. Just like, sup guys? So basically we're done. Quite like where this ended up. Let me know where I could drop PSDs to, and
thanks a lot.
the correct invoice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye. Also from one of those emails that's like no reply at Alex Heath.
Yeah.
There's just like there's no way for them to get in contact with you. What are we doing?
Sounds perfect. Sounds like such a great way to do it.
Inspiring stuff.
Yeah. What's the most important thing one should really pay attention to or practice when it comes to painting? Just generally?
I mean, it's hard to say like what would be like the most important one single thing, because they all kind of feed into each other. But if I had to kind of pick something that I think really helps, is actually drawing. Like, if you can draw well in perspective, like you will figure out how to render things well, and you'll figure out how to do values well, because so much of it is linked to your understanding of what way surfaces are facing. That if you're able to draw really, really well, and you're able to draw in perspective well, you'll pick up rendering so quickly, because all of the rendering is, aside from the brush strokes, like the aesthetic of it, but all it really is like, what way is this surface facing, and where is my light source? And if you're good at perspective, you'll understand the volume of what you've drawn, and you'll understand where in a spatial relationship the light source is, and so you'll very quickly make decisions like, oh well, yeah, this shadow happens because the light source is up here, and this will fall off this way because of that, and you'll pick up all of the kind of things you need to render very quick from that. I've worked with people that are like fantastic at line art, and they will be like, oh, I'd really like to try rendering stuff, because I just do line art all the time, blah blah blah. I'm like, cool. And then you give them a task to do that, and they just kill it straight away.
Smash
like,
out.
whoa. You're just like, what the hell? And they're like, yeah, I'm not so sure. I'm like, this, that, and the other. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's taken me my entire career to get to a point where I can paint stuff, and this person's just been drawing the entire time, and they're like, oh, I'm not so good with color. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, you'll learn that by looking at stuff, and getting a taste for it. It's very difficult to like teach someone the mechanics of like light and stuff if their perspective knowledge isn't there. And that's generally the issue that I see with a lot of portfolios. Like, I'll see people that can render really well, but they don't understand perspective too well, and then that makes their rendering look bad.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's my rendering. I'm like, no, it's the fact that you would struggle to draw boxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only thing. Like
Yeah.
your rendering will come on a million times faster if your perspective is in check. And like your perspective doesn't even need to be fantastic, because you can look through my portfolio and there's all sorts of perspective errors in there. Like you don't have to be some kind of architect to do it. You just, like, as long as you can like eyeball it to a fairly good degree, like you go pretty far with it, far enough that someone else will do the drawing for you, and then you just
you just render it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of our art directors at Moon Colony, who's also called Alex. We have so many Alexes.
Is it Alex Pasenko?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know him.
Yeah. He's like, he talks about the, like, really learning the planes of like the head, of the body, like the hands and stuff, and that really helps, because then you're literally breaking it down into, well, the light's going to hit here and then it's going to curve around this edge, and he's mentioned that he did a stream with us on Wednesday, and he did a stream with us a few weeks back as well, and he just mentions it a lot. He said, I think for him that's super important, and once again that comes back to drawing, having that drawing ability.
Yeah, for real. Like, I remember way back in the day on conceptart.org, like I would see Alex's pencil drawings and scanned in, and his drawings are amazing back then. And I remember seeing some of the threads on there where he was like trying out Photoshop and trying out coloring stuff for the first time, and stuff, and it was like instantly like so good, in the sense that he understood exactly how the shadows were going to fall and like where the light source was, even if maybe the color choices weren't quite there, or there was those kind of stylistic issues. But in terms of the understanding of where everything should be, it was like spot on. And so you're like, oh, it's really a matter of time before he figures that stuff out, and probably quite quickly, and then it'll be really good. And lo and behold,
he is.
Here we are.
Yeah.
He actually did a talk at industry workshops back in the day when we were still organizing that and doing that, and he's quite nervous about going on stage. And I was like, you know what, I'll sit on stage with you, and I'll just have a microphone, and like I'll just ask you questions, so you don't have to think about what to say.
Yeah.
And we'll just go. We'll just go from there. No, it was actually quite a funny conversation, because he was quite nervous and I was goofing around.
Yeah.
But that's how we know each other from then.
No, that's cool. Yeah, a lot of people said that they really enjoyed your the talk you did at Concept 101 as well.
Yeah, that was good fun. I was kind of quite nervous. I made Laura sit through a practice of it the night before. I was like, you gotta help me out. I had Laura and my wife Daisy like over here, and I had the screen turned around.
Oh man, I hated doing those. When I had to do presentations at university, I never practiced them. I'm the kind of person that when I do that kind of stuff, I just do it. Because when I practice it, it just makes me feel worse. So I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go for it.
Yeah, I think sometimes winging it can be better. Because I was quite nervous about that one at 101, and I practiced it quite a bit, and I was aware that the first time I practiced it was actually like the best time I did it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, no way.
Yeah.
So that really threw me off. Whereas like this, I knew what I was gonna do roughly, but I didn't practice any of it. So yeah, I feel like it's a bit better when it's a bit off the cuff.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
So yeah,
Cool.
going through.
Yeah, we're getting there. We've got a few more minutes left. We are.
Sweet. Is there any more questions from?
There is. There's a couple more.
Okay.
Let's see. Pasternak has said the pupil of the eye would be on the inner rim of the iris on the side profile, right? Now it kind of has a glass eye effect.
Yeah. This should be like back here.
Over there. Yeah.
Correct. Well done. Well done.
Nice job.
Well done.
Yeah, we're focusing more on color today than proper anatomy, but good spot.
That is a good spot. That's all I'm going to see now.
Yeah, you're laying in bed awake at night.
Yeah. You're like, no.
And so that was a nice quick one. The next one was Nico Arti. What's the best way to learn perspective? Because I've started drawing a lot of stuff recently, focusing on it. Is there some videos or courses or anything that you would recommend that could help you out?
Yeah, I think obviously first off, just starting to plot 3D, just basic like 1 point perspective, draw boxes above and below the horizon line. 2 point perspective, same. 3, all the way up to 5, curved and linear. Just getting an idea of like what happens when you move that simple shape through the space, and then what happens when you introduce kind of more dimensions in which that is moving away from you.
Yeah,
is very good practice. It's boring. It's very boring, but a couple of afternoons and you draw 30 boxes in different perspectives. You will get a much better idea of what's happening when things are moving around. But then the other thing that I found really helpful was to take something like a photo of a car, just that's on the street, and then try and draw it in a different perspective without anything other than that photo as a reference. And you could start off with something simpler than a car, like it could just be, I don't know, something that's got a bit of a weird shape to it, but it's not too. I was looking for something around this.
Yeah, I'm looking for something too.
But and there's nothing. But yeah, just something quite simple, like why don't I have anything? Yeah, exactly. Maybe something with straight edges to start with, just so that you can see it happening. But the idea is that you're trying to break down the basics of the shape you're looking at, so that you can plot it into perspective, and break that down. And what you're trying to do is transfer that knowledge that you've learned from drawing the boxes to something more practical. So like if it's I don't know, let's say it's like a PlayStation controller, right?
Yeah,
we all know the shape of that. Something, this is Xbox now, sorry everyone. This is our Xbox controller. But if we thought of this as, this is a cylinder that kind of tapers. I'm drawing through it here. This is a cylinder that kind of tapers, and this is a box. Okay. Then if we want to draw this in a different perspective, we want to see it from like it's floating above us and below, we could kind of work that out by just thinking of those simple shapes. And we don't have to draw the controller. We're just trying to kind of give ourselves an idea of what that looks like if we're looking up at it and it's floating above us, right? And then we can fill out the details. So if you've got a photo of a car or something on your desk, try and draw it in like several different perspectives like this. And even you could put a 2-point perspective out grid, you know,
Yeah.
and draw it up here, and draw it laying down, and draw it down here, and then maybe turn it, you know, certain degrees in here. Because what you want to do is start looking at everything in this manner, where you can look at something and say, right, that is boxes, that is cylinders, cones, because these are really easy to draw in perspective once you do the basic bits. So if you can break everything down into these things initially, you can draw anything you want in perspective. You know, a car doesn't have to be super complicated. You know, the main kind of shapes of it could be different, you know, shaped boxes like this, and the whole wheel is just cylinder running through it. And then obviously you can break this down further and further, but if you can understand the world in these terms, then you can draw anything, because it's easy to draw a box up past a certain point in perspective, and it's easy to draw a cylinder, so it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that.
If you can handle the monotony of drawing boxes, I think there's that website that's like 100 boxes.
Draw a box,
like,
whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's like you have to draw like 100 boxes in different perspectives and stuff. It's really weird, but
yeah,
you know, if you can handle the monotony of it, I've heard people have found that pretty useful.
Yeah, for real. If you can. Like I said, that first bit's boring, but that first bit is actually the only bit you need to know.
Yeah.
The rest of it is kind of just kind of fluff around it and your ability to break the shapes down, but drawing that stuff and understanding what happens is really the only thing that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Just gonna line these up quickly next to each other.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could do a little I don't know, showcase, recap, whatever.
It's a show. It's the end of the show.
It's the end of the show.
Yeah. Important. Okay, and then Oosh. Come on, Alex. There we go.
Nice.
I was resisted getting the pen tool out there. Yeah. So there you go. There's the two processes side by side. As you can see, in general, the colors are like fuller, richer on this one, because we're actually working with color basically from the start, whereas this one still retains a bit of its kind of washiness almost all the way through. So yeah, there's that comparison. But there you go. Those are two different methods to use for different things that you might need. Right. I completely lost on this. These are two different methods that you can use depending on whether you have a sketch that's already worked out, or if you have something that you're going to spend more time on and polish up. There you go.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks again, Alex. It was really nice to have you here, and I hope we can get you back for something else in the future. It was nice to hang out and
yeah, man.
see you work.
I'm down.
Yeah,
I'm down for anything. If there's a topic, we can chat about it. Whatever.
Sure.
Happy.
Yeah. Thanks again to everyone in chat as well. It was lovely to see you all, having a good time and talking with us. Thank you for all the questions and everything. Time really good fly today. Oh, we got a final hydrate. Thank you so much. I'll have a quick drink before we finish. But we're streaming twice next week as well, so join us for that. Next Wednesday we're having Tulio on here to do a fun little character design challenge. So look forward to that. It won't be as educational. It'll be just a bit more fun, bit silly. But please do come along. It'll be a good laugh. But,
I'll tune in.
Yeah, please do. But until then, I hope everyone has a really nice weekend, and I'll see you next week. Stick around and I'll pick someone for us to raid. So thanks, guys. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.
Take care. Cheers.
Bye.